contractor came to us a few weeks ago and told me he'd been running ads on Facebook for the last 4 months. 4 months, spending right around $100 a week. And in those 4 months, he had generated 0 leads. Not bad leads, not slow leads, 0. And his conclusion, which is the conclusion that almost every contractor reaches that is in the exact situation, was that Facebook ads just don't work for contractors. I'm Anthony with Apex Operations, and I need to tell you right now, before we go any further, that conclusion is absolutely wrong. But here's what's interesting. When I actually look at what he was running, it wasn't just the ad budget that killed this campaign, it was the ad itself. It had nothing to do with construction. The image was an AI generated graph, the kind that you would see on a finance presentation. The copy never mentioned anything about contracting, remodeling, or anything that a homeowner would recognize. So today, I want to break down both problems, the budget and the creative, because honestly, even if he had spent 10 times more money, that specific ad wasn't going to work anyway. Let's get into why. Here's what most contractors don't realize about how Facebook's ad platform actually works. When you launch a new ad, Facebook doesn't immediately know who to show it to. It goes through something that's called a learning phase, where the algorithm is testing your ad against different types of people, watching how they respond, and slowly figuring out who's actually interested in what you're offering. The learning phase requires data, and data requires volume. Specifically, Facebook needs to get a certain number of meaningful actions, which are clicks, leads, engagement, within about a week before it can even start to optimize. At $100 a week, you're simply not feeding the algorithm enough information for it to ever figure out who your ideal customer is. So you're not testing, you're not learning, you're just barely participating. The campaign never leaves the learning phase, which means it never gets good, it just stays confused indefinitely, burning a little money every single day without ever improving. But here's the part that made this specific campaign even worse. Remember that ad that I mentioned, the AI generated graph image, the copy that never mentioned construction? Even at the right budget, that ad gives the algorithm nothing useful to learn from. Facebook's ad targeting today runs heavily on the creative itself. What's in the image, what's in the copy, who responds to it, and if the ad clearly says, I am a contractor, I do remodels, I serve homeowners. The algorithm can't connect it to homeowners that are looking for a contractor, it's just left guessing. The same way that if a homeowner actually saw the ad, they would just scroll right past it. So this contractor had 2 separate problems stacked on top of each other. The budget was too small to ever leave the learning phase, and the ad itself, even with the bigger budget, wasn't built to attract the right person in the first place. Either one of those alone would have hurt the results. Together, they guaranteed 0 leads for 4 months. So let's talk about the real numbers, because this isn't a guess on our part. And to be clear, this math actually assumes that the creative problem was already solved. We're talking about what happens once you actually have an ad that looks and reads like a contractor ad with real photos of real work and copy that speaks to a homeowner. This comes from running ad accounts for contractors across remodeling, roofing, ADUs, outdoor living, and custom home builds. Here's what we see consistently. For every $1,000 spent with a properly built campaign, you can expect somewhere between 20 and 50 leads. That puts your average cost per lead range in about $20 to $60. Now here's where it gets simple. At our recommended minimum of $50 per day, that's about $1,500 per month in ad spend. Run that through the math, at $20 to $60 per lead, you're looking at roughly 25 to 75 leads a month, depending on your market and how dialed in your creative is. Compare that to $100 a week, about $400 a month. At that same cost per lead range, you're talking about somewhere between 6 and 20 leads a month. If the algorithm ever got out of that learning phase, which at that spend level, it usually doesn't. So in reality, that $400 a month produces close to nothing. Not because the math is bad, but because the volume is too low for Facebook to ever learn who to target in the first place. This is the part that contractors miss. It's not that more money gets you more leads in a straight line. It's that below a certain threshold, you don't get a smaller version of success, you get no success at all, and the campaign just sits in limbo. And that's before you even factor in whether the ad itself gives the algorithm anything worth learning from. Now, let's go back to that specific ad, because I don't want this video to leave you thinking that budget was the only issue, because it wasn't. The image on the ad was an AI generated graph, the kind of stock visual that you'd expect in a business slideshow, not a contractor ad. Nothing about it suggested construction, remodeling, or home improvement, and the copy underneath it never once mentioned that this was a general contracting business. No mention of kitchens, bathrooms, additions, remodels, nothing a homeowner would read and think, oh, this is exactly what I need. Put yourself in the shoes of a homeowner scrolling through Facebook. They see a graph, they see the text with no mention of contracting. What are they supposed to do with that? They're not gonna stop and figure it out. They're just gonna keep scrolling because nothing told them that that ad had anything to do with their kitchen remodel or their backyard project. And here's the part that matters most in this video. This is not a budget problem. You could take that same exact ad, the graph, the vague copy, and run it at $50 a day, $200 a day, or even $1,000 a day, and it still wouldn't perform the way that it should. A bigger budget just means you'd burn through more money faster, getting the same poor results at a larger scale. More fuel doesn't help an engine that is not connected to the wheels. This is why we always say it takes both pieces working together. The right budget gives the algorithm enough data to learn, and the right creative gives the algorithm something worth learning from. Fix only one of those and you're still stuck. Fix both, and that's when campaigns actually start producing real homeowner leads. This is exactly why at Apex Operations we have a hard minimum before we'll even start to work with the contractor on paid ads. And it's not just a budget minimum, it's a creative standard too. And I want to be straight with you about why. It's not because we're trying to upsell you or squeeze more money out of you, it's actually the opposite. If we took your money at $400 a month, running an ad that doesn't even mention what you do, knowing none of it was ever going to produce results, we would be doing the exact same that the contractor's previous experience did to him. Taking money, delivering nothing, and letting him walk away thinking that paid advertising doesn't work for his business. In most cases, our clients are selling $100,000, $200,000, even sometimes $500,000 projects, and you cannot generate that caliber of client on a budget that wasn't built to generate real leads. Running an ad that doesn't even look like it's coming from a contractor. So when we say $50 a day minimum, what we're really trying to say is two things at once. This is the minimum amount required for the algorithm to actually learn, optimize, and start sending you the right people. And the creative behind the spend has to actually say the contractor. The moment that someone sees it, anything below either one of these isn't a smaller campaign, it's an experiment that was set up to fail before it ever launched. I understand why a contractor hesitates here. $1,500 a month in ad spend feels like a lot more than $400 a month. On paper, it looks like a bigger risk. But here's how I want you to actually think about it. At $400 a month spread too thin to ever leave the learning phase, you're not taking a smaller risk, you're guaranteeing a loss. You will almost certainly spend that money and get nothing in return the same way that other contractor did for 4 months, and that's $1,600 in total, gone, with 0 leads to show for it. Versus spending $1,500 a month spent correctly, where the algorithm actually has enough data to learn, optimize, and start delivering qualified homeowners into your pipeline. If even one of those leads turn into a job, and in residential construction, one job can easily cover 3, 6, even 12 months of ad spend, the entire equation changes. The real risk was not spending $50 a day. The real risk was spending money in a way that was mathematically never going to work in the first place. When we get a campaign funded from day one, here's what it actually looks like in practice. With the right minimum budget, the right creative that actually speaks to a homeowner, and the right targeting being handled by Meta's algorithm, we typically start seeing leads come in within the first 24 to 72 hours of launch. Not months, days. We've had clients close over $1 million in new business within their first 3 months of working with us, and that started with a properly funded campaign from day one. Not a contractor testing waters with a budget that's too small to ever get off the ground. And that's the difference. It's not that money fixes everything, it's that there's a real floor, a minimum threshold, below which the math simply doesn't work. No matter how good your creative is or how good your projects look, once you're above that floor, results start to follow the math just like we walked through. So here's what I actually want you to walk away with. If you've tried Facebook ads before and concluded that they don't work for contractors, before you write off paid advertising completely, ask yourself 2 honest questions. What was your daily budget, and did your ad actually look and read like it came from a contractor with real photos, real copy about real work? If either one of those is off, then the problem was never the platform. If you're ready to run ads the right way, funded properly, built around real creative, and managed with the kind of testing and optimization that actually produces results, book a free strategy call with our team. The link is in the description. We'll look at the market, we'll look at your goals, and we'll show you exactly what a properly structured campaign would look like for your business. The minimum isn't a sales tactic, it's math. And once you understand the math, everything else makes a lot more sense. I'm Anthony with Apex Operations. We'll see you on the next one.